This is the quietest full-size Dodge we've ever built.
We put a lot of engineering into the torsion bar suspension system, and the customer gets a lot out of it.
Quality is our #1 priority, and you can really see the quality built into the Dodge St. Regis.
Hello, I'm Jim Davis with a special report on Dodge St. Regis, your full-size Dodge that offers spacious roominess for 6 passengers and luggage with big car ride, comfort, and handling. Make no mistake about it, even in the face of rising fuel costs, the full-size market is still there, still big, and still important. For some people, the full-size car is a necessity because the size of their family or their business or travel needs dictate 6-passenger room and comfort. In fact, full-size cars are expected to account for 16% of the total market, or 1,600,000 units in total sales this year. With this St. Regis in the Dodge line, buyers now have a choice between a full-size Chevy, Ford, or Dodge. And you're now covered in the market, all the way from the import subcompact segment with Colt and Colt hatchback up to the full-size segment with Dodge St. Regis. In just a few minutes, we'll get down to a head-to-head comparison against Chevrolet Caprice and Ford LTD. But first, I'd like you to meet 3 Chrysler Corporation engineers, each of whom played an important role in the design and engineering of the Dodge St. Regis. Walt Esser, a Chrysler Corporation sound and vibration engineer. Jack Kirby, a Chrysler Corporation steering and suspension engineer. And Donald Hassey, a Chrysler Corporation engineer and manager of the Dodge St. Regis Quality Assurance Systems. First, I'd like to thank each of you gentlemen for coming down to the studio today. Now, let's start our discussion with the reasons why people buy a full-size car and how Dodge St. Regis is designed and engineered to meet those needs. According to the Rogers study, a quarterly updated marketing survey, the 3 reasons why most people buy full-size cars are 6-passenger room and comfort, a big car ride, and quality appearance. Now, how does St. Regis measure up in those 3 areas? Walt?
If a buyer's primary need is 6-passenger room and comfort, St. Regis has it. We designed, engineered, and built St. Regis as a true 6-passenger automobile. For example, it has more front and rear hip room than Caprice. Beyond the dimensional advantages, we've also paid special attention to acoustical insulation in and around the passenger compartment, because we know that quietness goes a long way in providing interior comfort. For example, we made the premium sound insulation components standard equipment on the St. Regis. Ford uses 3 different insulation packages depending on what full-size Ford you choose, the LTD, the LTDS, or their top-of-the-line Crown Victoria. In addition, we made a total of 32 improvements over the '79 St. Regis, several in the area around the flag-type mirror and others in the window weather stripping. With this extra effort in sound control, a Dodge salesman should be able to counter Ford's claim that their LTD is as quiet as a Rolls-Royce. All he has to do is put the prospect behind the wheel of a St. Regis and let him judge for himself.
Good point, Walt. Jack Kirby, you're the steering and suspension engineer. Now, how does the St. Regis combination front torsion bar and multi-leaf rear spring suspension system compare to the coil spring suspension used in Ford and Chevy in terms of big car ride and handling?
There's really no more subjective area of comparison than ride and handling. The feel of one car may seem rough or choppy to one driver, and the same car may feel just right to another. But we do have some important differences in St. Regis versus Caprice and LTD. We have the smooth riding combination front torsion bar and multi-leaf rear spring suspension standard in St. Regis. Both Caprice and LTD use coil springs at all four wheels. GM does use a torsion bar front suspension only in their more expensive, high-priced luxury cars like Olds Tornado and Cadillac Eldorado. St. Regis also has a longer wheelbase, about 2.5 inches longer than Caprice and more than 4 inches longer than LTD. A longer wheelbase is usually associated with a smoother ride. We've also made some important running changes in the way we adjust the steering gear and assemble the wheel and tire. It's something not many salesmen really know about, but both changes help improve the big car ride and feel in our cars. New machinery on the assembly line ensures accurate alignment of the components of every steering gear. The result is the steering now has a more precise feel with no free play at the steering wheel. To complement the more precise feel of the steering, we've also brought in new machinery that permits matching each tire to the wheel prior to final wheel balancing. Without being too technical about it, this new machine detects the high spot of the road wheel. The assembly operator then matches the high spot of the road wheel to the low spot of the tire, ensuring a smooth rolling assembly, as opposed to the situation where the high spot of the wheel were assembled adjacent to the high spot on the tire, resulting in this condition. Thus, the vibration-causing forces are minimized. The benefit is a much smoother, quieter ride.
Thanks, Jack. That's very impressive. Donald Hassey, you're manager of the St. Regis Quality Assurance Program. What about the quality built into St. Regis?
Under Mr. Iacocca's leadership, quality is our #1 priority for St. Regis and for all Chrysler Corporation cars and trucks. If you'll remember, last year, St. Regis was an all-new car. And since it was introduced, we've made many changes to help ensure the overall quality and appearance of the car. But to us, quality starts with the materials we use to build the car, the types of fabrics and upholstery, and the built-in corrosion protection we provide. For example, in places that are most susceptible to corrosion, like the body side inner and outer sills, rear floor pan side extensions, and rear outer wheel housings, we use steel panels that are galvanized on 2 sides. Steel panels galvanized on one side are used for the front fenders, door outer panels, and the rear quarter panels. On top of all that galvanized steel, we then give the added protection of the 7-step dip and spray process with all the added corrosion-resistant coating it provides. Our new Chrysler Corporation 36-month anti-corrosion perforation limited warranty should be a strong selling point to any buyers with doubts of the built-in quality of any Chrysler Corporation car.
So, St. Regis is designed and engineered to meet the needs of full-size car buyers with 6-passenger room and comfort, including special attention to acoustical insulation in and around the passenger compartment. St. Regis has a solid, smooth, big car ride with a longer wheelbase than Ford or Chevy, and the advantage of the combination front torsion bar and multi-leaf rear spring suspension. Plus, new changes in steering gear alignment and the tire and wheel assembly process to ensure a smooth, quiet, big car ride. And finally, St. Regis is built and engineered for a long-lasting quality appearance with the use of corrosion-resistant galvanized metal in critical body areas and the added protection of Chrysler's exclusive 7-step dip and spray process. Now, let's leave the studio and go on location with Sandy Drew, who will lead us in a head-to-head comparison between Dodge St. Regis, Chevrolet Caprice, and Ford LTD.
Thank you, Jim. I've had some time to take a good look at the Chevrolet Caprice, the Ford LTD, and the Dodge St. Regis. It's easy to see the difference the longer wheelbase for St. Regis makes. It definitely gives St. Regis a solid, more substantial look. That big car look is also carried over to the front end design. The dual rectangular headlamps with transparent retractable doors. A richly chromed grille with swing-away feature for added grille protection. Chrome-plated bumpers with protective bumper strips and the standard white sidewall glass-belted radial ply tires give St. Regis a distinctive big car look. Neither Caprice nor Ford LTD have St. Regis's retractable headlamp covers or swing-away grille feature. White sidewall tires and protective bumper rub strips are extra cost options for both cars. St. Regis's classic pillared hardtop styling with a thin center pillar requires no frame for the door glass. The wider, thicker center posts and frame door glass of Caprice and LTD give them both a more closed-in look, inside and out. I also notice a distinct difference when I first opened the door of the St. Regis. First, there was a pleasant tone warning to alert you that the key was in the ignition switch. Then a chime warning reminds you to fasten the seat belt. Both Caprice and LTD use harsher sounding standard buzzers for the same reminders, except for the LTD Crown Victoria, which uses a chime-type seatbelt reminder. The seating in St. Regis is very comfortable, and buyers have a choice of 5 different front seats. A standard split-back cloth and vinyl seat with a folding center armrest. Or your prospects may select the optional 60/40 seating with center folding armrest. In cloth and vinyl, all vinyl, or leather. You'll also notice that with the optional 60/40 feature, the widest section, including the center folding armrest, is given to the driver. Optional 50/50 split bench seating in both Caprice and LTD give only half of the front seat to the driver. St. Regis also comes through with the added touches of luxury that full-size buyers appreciate, like richly trimmed door panels with wood tone inserts, carpeted lower panels, and standard door pull straps. Caprice has standard door pull straps and carpeted lower panels. LTD models do not. You'll also notice a difference in the appearance and layout of St. Regis's instrumentation and controls. There's plenty of wood tone trim, an easy-to-read gauge for the alternator, a standard trip odometer, an engine temperature gauge, and a single multi-function lever control is used for the turn signals, headlamp dimmer, and washer-wiper controls, plus the optional automatic speed control. In Caprice, warning lights are used for engine temperature and alternator charging conditions. An engine temperature gauge and trip odometer are part of an extra cost package. And even though Caprice has a control lever on the steering column, it only handles the turn signals and headlamp dimmer. Controls for the wipers and washer are still on the instrument panel, a long reach away. Ford LTD also uses standard warning lights for the alternator and engine temperature functions. A trip odometer is available, but only as part of an extra cost package. And LTD uses 2 different control levers for 5 different functions, including the horn. Selecting the right lever at the right time could be confusing. To match its 6-passenger comfort and convenience, St. Regis has family-size luggage room. While St. Regis, Caprice, and LTD all have big roomy trunks, only St. Regis stores its compact spare tire vertically in a well at the right of the trunk floor. It leaves the St. Regis trunk area uncluttered, ready to handle a family-size load of luggage or cargo. Both Caprice and LTD mount their spare tires forward in the raised portion of the trunk and reduce usable space in that area.
Sandy, what about the performance of the wide ratio TorqueFlite transmission with lock-up torque converter that's now standard for St. Regis with the slant 6 engine?
When I drove this car, I did feel a difference over last year's 6-cylinder St. Regis, especially in acceleration from a standing start. Jim, perhaps one of the engineers could tell us a little more about the benefits of the new wide ratio TorqueFlite with the built-in lock-up torque converter.
Jack?
Well, Jim, as you know, our TorqueFlite automatic transmission has long been known for good performance. Now, in six-cylinder models, the new wide ratio gearing and lock-up torque converter feature help deliver improved acceleration while retaining good fuel economy. Briefly, here's how it works. Like any three-speed automatic, the new wide ratio TorqueFlite uses three different forward gear ratios to multiply engine torque to driving torque. In the new wide ratio TorqueFlite, a higher numerical ratio first gear improves acceleration from a standing start. There's a 5% improvement in distance traveled in the first 5 seconds. A new higher numerical ratio second gear also improves mid-range acceleration. And to help improve fuel economy, there's a built-in lock-up torque converter that eliminates fuel-robbing slippage and actually improves fuel economy, an estimated 6% highway and 2% city, compared to the same vehicle without the lock-up feature.
Thank you, Jack. I'm sure our experts here will agree with your analysis. Now, to wrap it up, gentlemen, there's one subject we should discuss, and that's price. How does Dodge St. Regis compare with Caprice and LTD on a sticker price basis?
The St. Regis is priced squarely between its competitors. Against the top-selling Caprice, St. Regis is a better value. Comparing similarly equipped vehicles, including the minimum equipment required to bring both cars to the same equipment level, St. Regis is sticker priced about $160 under Caprice.
Ford's aggressive pricing for 1980 looks better on paper than St. Regis for comparably equipped vehicles. Their price is lower. But if you've done a good job of showing your prospects both the obvious and the hidden advantages of St. Regis, you won't have any difficulty justifying our price position versus LTD.
I think the key to selling St. Regis over Caprice and the LTD is demonstrating the St. Regis to the prospect. Let him get behind the wheel and feel the comfort, and feel the ride, and feel the quality that we built into that car.
And for those prospects in the full-size market who want the full measure of luxury in a full-size car, remember to show and demonstrate the St. Regis Touring Edition. It has a padded full vinyl roof, formal backlight, standard cornering lights, forged aluminum road wheels, plush leather seating, power windows, and much more. St. Regis and the St. Regis Touring Edition successfully bracket the competition for 1980, from the Spartan LTD to LTD Crown Victoria, and across the entire Chevrolet Caprice line. I really want to thank you, gentlemen. Dodge St. Regis is designed, engineered, and built to meet the needs of the full-size car buyer with 6-passenger room and comfort, a big car ride, and quality appearance. Remember to sell the benefits of each St. Regis feature. Key into the reasons why a buyer wants or needs a full-size car, and demonstrate Dodge St. Regis to every prospect.